Nothing in this podcast or on our website should be construed as medical advice. Consult your healthcare provider for your individual nutritional and medical needs. The information presented is based on our research and is strictly that of the author and not necessarily those of any professional group or other individual.
Hi, I'm Sue Becker from Bread Beckers. Welcome to Sue's Healthy Minutes. I'm so excited you've joined me today, and I hope this episode encourages you and allows you to find the answers you have been praying for the health of you and your family. Today on Sue's Healthy Minutes, it is my very great privilege to introduce to you my guest, Teresa Clayton, owner and founder of North Georgia Thermography and Wellness in Jasper, Georgia. Teresa is not only a longtime customer of Bread Beckers, but also a previous employee and a longtime really good friend. She is a wealth of information, and I am so excited to share her story. Teresa, welcome to Sue's Healthy Minutes. Thank you for taking the time to share with everyone today. It's so glad to have you here.
Thank you, Sue. It is such an honor to be on your podcast. And I'm glad we're doing this in person. So it is like just two friends talking.
Yes, it is.
Because this is my first podcast. And when you asked me a couple of days ago, I have had butterflies since. So if we weren't doing it in person, I don't know if I would be able to do this.
Well, it's such a privilege to be here in your beautiful clinic. Is that the right word? Or what do you call it?
No, I don't call it clinic because that's
kind of
sounds
medical.
More medical. Yeah. I like to think of this as a learning center.
There you go.
Because there is so much education behind it, and it's a center for wellness.
Yes.
It's a wellness center.
There you go. Yes. All right. Well, we'll get to that in just a minute, but let's tell everybody a little bit about yourself, where you're from, how you first heard about Bread Beckers. That goes back a pretty good ways, I think.
Yes, it does. I've been milling for quite a while now. Well, I'm from here, and my background is teaching. I loved the classroom. Absolutely loved teaching. Thought I was going to do it till the day I died. But that would be a whole nother podcast in itself of how I went from the classroom to homeschooling, because now I am a huge homeschool advocate. But anyway, when we started homeschooling, the whole idea seemed a little weird when we started, but we did it anyway. And what I noticed was all the moms were making bread. They were all making bread, and they were all crocheting. And I thought, that's not going to happen. So I just thought of it, it was like a trend. Then we went to a conference, and Bread Beckers was set up there.
Oh, yeah.
And my son kept going over to get samples, and I said, do not go back over there.
Those are samples. The kids loved us.
And he said, you got to try this. You got to try it. So I sampled it, and when I was over there, I saw all the things, and I was really intrigued. And the samples were delicious. And then sometime after that, we were over at some friend's house that we had met through homeschooling. And of course, she bread. It came up, and I said, well, I saw at the convention, they're right here in Woodstock. And she said, yes. She said, take my mill, take my bread machine. She said, it's so easy. You just dump it in the machine, do it. Just take it home with you. And she sent the red cookbook home with me. Well, it sat on my counter for a while because I hadn't no idea what to do with it.
Yeah.
I just looked at it, and I didn't know what to do with it. But I looked inside your red cookbook, and in the front of it, it did give some information. And I thought, oh, this is more than a trend.
Yeah, this is a lifestyle.
This is, yes. This is, I need to do this. So I went to one of your classes, and I was fascinated. The way you wove in the history of the food industry and the science and cooking and the Bible, and it just
was all encompassing.
Yes. And you did it so seamlessly while measuring. How does she do this?
Yeah.
And I was hooked from then.
Yeah.
And it really did change our lives. We don't even have a medicine cabinet really now.
Yeah. So you're married. How many children? I forget.
We had a blended family of 5.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and they're
all grown. You're done homeschooling.
Yes.
Oh, so how long do you think you've been on the real bread journey?
Probably 10 years.
Yeah. And then you came in and we hired you. We're like, you got to come work for us.
Yes.
So you did that for a little while. So that is just amazing. So there weren't health issues that kind of prompted you to start milling. You could see the health benefits of it, right?
Yes.
Yeah. But you have had a pretty significant health journey these past few years that led you probably to where you are today here in this beautiful wellness center.
Yeah, and I will say I didn't think we had health issues.
Right.
Because it was our normal.
Yeah.
So I used to take Tums and Rolaids all the time. Kept them in my purse, had them at home.
I just thought people needed to do that. Yeah.
Advil, didn't think anything about taking that, took that all the time. My husband used to get gout regularly. He had diverticulitis. Since we started milling, he has not had one episode of diverticulitis or gout.
That's amazing. Yeah.
And we never take Tums. And I can't even tell you the last time I took an Advil.
Yeah.
It was after my surgery because I wouldn't take the pain meds. But
yeah. That's kind of the way it was for me. When I read the information about milling and the common diseases that plague America, it was like, I never thought of myself as sick. You know,
I didn't either because it was my normal.
Yeah, I just have a headache. I take Advil. I have sinus congestion. I lived on them. I was constipated. I just thought that was just the way you had to live. And boy, was I in for a big shock.
So that's why I was so shocked when I did discover a knot in my breast. And I thought.
And that was what, 2 years?
It was in 22. It was in the spring of 22.
Okay, so almost 2 years.
And I thought, oh, that's weird. And then the next day, it was still there. And so then the next day, it was still there. And I thought, I need to see about this. So I made an appointment for a checkup. And of course, the physician, she was alarmed. She said, did you know you had this line? I said, yes, that's what prompted me to come in. So she wrote the orders for a mammogram. And I went and had that. And it was malignant. And I thought, I'm healthy. How did this happen? And it's cumulative. A lot of the toxins in your body are cumulative. And it was also a heart issue. My story is we had just sold my mother's house that spring, and she had been there for over 30 years, lots of memories, lots of things that we had to go through and purge. And then we were selling our house because our son was our youngest, was graduating college. We were selling our house. And so I was going through all of that. And when I was praying about it and take walks and stuff, and it just kept coming to my mind, and I just couldn't shake, you're purging all these things. I want you to purge your heart. Wow. Purge your heart.
Yeah.
And I didn't tell anybody because my son had just graduated and I just wasn't going to rain on his parade.
Yeah.
And then my daughter was working at a school at the time. She's now a homeschool mom, but she was working at a school at the time. So her summers with her children were precious.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah. And also I just didn't want to hear the noise. I just wanted to think, because I really thought, well, I am healthy. So it's a heart issue. So I was just very committed to prayer that summer. So I had the surgery and it went well. My margins were clear, lymph nodes were clear. And so it was good news. So then I was able to tell more people. But it was a difficult time, but it was a sweet time.
Yes. That's what I tell people about my story. It's like, I would never want to go through it again, but I don't regret having gone through it. God was everything to me. He was truly my daily bread.
Yes.
It was some days it was like, Lord, I got to hear you.
Yes.
I need you to speak to me.
And it was so neat because I didn't think that I was ever really good at memorizing scripture.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times that summer I was out, I did a lot of walking and hiking that summer and, by myself. And scriptures would just come to my mind.
Yeah.
Or, when I'm cooking dinner in the shower, scriptures it would just come to my mind.
Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah. God was right there. He's so close. I just, he just gave me the scripture recently. I think it's Psalm 56. I might have to check it. I can't remember exactly where, but it says, a broken heart the Lord does not despise. And I came at it from a different direction. So I looked up, what does despise mean? And I saw that. And so then what are the antonyms for despise? And it's love and cherish and respect and honor. And so, gosh, when you think about it that way, he cherishes a broken heart and he heals the broken heart. Don't want you to stay there.
Right. And one that kept coming to my mind that summer was the unfolding of your words gives light. It gives understanding cling to the simple. And that's Psalms 119, 130. And kept thinking, this doesn't make sense. This doesn't make sense. And that was the part of my heart that he was working on. Trust me. Because it was revealed to me that I had some serious trust issues from things that gone through.
Yeah, that's amazing. So you went through that experience.
Mm-hmm.
You had a mammogram.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But since then, you learned a lot about mammograms and that there's alternatives to mammograms.
Because it really made me get even more serious about my health. And then many of the things they told me to do, I wouldn't do.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do it. I did have the mammogram because I didn't know any difference. And I knew for sure something was there because I felt it myself.
Right. Right.
And I knew it just had to come out. So the day I went in for the biopsy, I told the surgeon, I don't care if it's benign or malignant, just get it out. And he said, well, it doesn't work that way. We have to do the biopsy. And so it was malignant, and I just wanted it. I just wanted it out. So I did have the surgery.
Yeah. Did you do radiation at all?
No, I didn't.
Chemotherapy. You just had the surgery, had the lump removed. Mm-hmm. Share about that. So you opted to not do chemotherapy and radiation.
There were several things along the way that they
go ahead, tell us about that.
And it just didn't resonate with me that was the right thing to do. Well, for one of them, when I went in for the checkup, she gave me the orders for the mammogram that day, but she also gave me a prescription for hormones. And I thought, I'm not going to get that prescription filled. So I went for the mammogram, and right away, the technician, she said, wait here. And then she came back and got me. She said, I'm going to take you upstairs for ultrasound. And I had an ultrasound. The ultrasound technician said, I'll be right back.
Yeah.
And
those are not the words you want to hear.
A doctor came in and said, she was very cold, very matter-of-factly. She handed me a brochure and said, your primary doctor will be in touch with you. This needs to be biopsied.
Yeah.
And left. And so then the technician walked me back down to the where the mammograms were so I could get dressed and leave. And I left, and I had that brochure in my hand. I got in the car, and I looked at it, and it said it was breast cancer. Okay, don't cry. And I drove home. I didn't say anything to the family.
I don't know how you did that.
Fixed dinner and just went about and thought, let me get this checked into. And for 2 days, I didn't get a call from the doctor. So I thought, I'm not waiting around. So I called and said, can you give me a list of surgeons?
Yeah.
And they gave me 3 surgeons. I looked them up, and their ratings were not good. So I went with the best of the 3. And the woman on the phone, she was very rude. So I went out for a jog, and I was the only one in the park because it was hot that day. And I just sat down and cried. And I just cried, and I said out loud, God, do you see me? Because we were supposed to be moving. We had some trips planned that summer. That was the only time I cried. I cried then, and I prayed. And then I went home, and our friend Sarah called me, which was strange because we text all the time. But it was a phone call that day. And she said, what's the matter? And I said, nothing. And she said, I can tell by your voice something's the matter.
Wow.
And so I told her, I said, Sarah, nobody's calling me back. And she said, I have somebody I'm going to take you to. She took me down to Piedmont, Atlanta, and she was with me. And so she knew, and she prayed with me. God sends a friend at the perfect time.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And so after I got the results from my biopsy back that said it was malignant, it was the same day that we were going to Virginia to move my son. He had graduated, but he was going to go back to Virginia. And we were moving him from his apartment to a house that he had rented with his roommates. And we get up there, and the house was in this area. It's like, this looks like every house is a meth house. If one of them goes in flames, it's like, you can't live here. So we went back to his apartment, and I went in the bathroom, and I just thought, Lord, this is too much to handle, because I had just found out.
You were just going through all this.
And I just prayed and prayed, and I went to bed and slept. And then I called Sarah the next morning, and she said, I'll go with you, but now's the time you need to tell Chris.
Yeah.
And that Monday morning, I was supposed to go in for a consult, and I said, Chris, can you not go to work today and go somewhere with me? And he said, yeah, where are we going? I said, just get ready. I'll tell you in the car.
Oh my goodness.
So we got ready. I said, we're going to Piedmont, Atlanta. So he went on the consult with me. But I also had an appointment that afternoon for an MRI. And I got the email over the weekend while we were in Lynchburg about the MRI. I thought, I don't want to do that. It even said, we can give you medication to calm you down, And so we were like, I'm not going to do that. So I was prepared to dig my heels in. I'm not going to do that. So the surgeon, when he got to that part, I said, well, I know it's there and you know it's there. And I've already had a biopsy. Why am I having the MRI? And he said, oh, you don't want to do that? And I said, no. He said, okay.
There you go.
It was that simple. And I was prepared to dig my heels in, but he said, okay. And he said, you can have a lumpectomy followed by radiation or a mastectomy, and then you never have to have another mammogram or worry about it again or anything. So that's what I did.
You did a mastectomy?
A mastectomy.
Okay.
Yeah. Double mastectomy. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And the recovery was much harder than I expected. Leading up to it, I was at peace. I wasn't scared.
Yeah.
Which is unusual because I don't even like needles. I don't like, but I was very calm. Yeah, I was at peace and calm. And but the recovery was very difficult.
Yeah. Mm. So when did you jump on the thermography journey? Tell us a little about thermography.
Yes.
And why you're passionate about what you're doing now.
Yeah. So it made me amp up, looking into what's more natural, really healthy.
Health routes.
Yes, all that. And for several years, I had been praying about, Lord, what am I doing now in this time of my life? I really wanted something. So be careful what you pray for.
Oh, I know about that.
So anyway, I thought I was going to have something to do with homeschooling because I just loved teaching. I loved homeschooling and I loved writing curriculum. So I really thought it was going to be along those lines. I was thinking of opening up a resource center and really working with the moms of homeschoolers.
Yeah.
And one day I was listening to a podcast. It was a homeschooling podcast, but she had a guest on there who was a thermographer. And she said, I don't think my mother died of breast cancer. She died because of the protocols. And I was like, oh, I've got to look into this. And so I just
down the rabbit hole went.
Yes. I just started looking into it and researching it. And I was like a dog on a bone with it.
Wow.
It was just, so much has been, I have learned so much about, and it is incredible how similar the educational system is to the healthcare system. Mm-hmm. The bigger it becomes, the less personal it becomes, and it's data driven. Yeah. It's very data driven. Like in schools, it's not about the child. It's about data and efficiency and statistics. Yeah. And so much of that is how the conventional medical system is too. And another thing I realized is the current research doesn't match the practices. Like they're doing in school does not match developmental appropriateness and brain research. It doesn't match that. And then over here, you have medical, you have doctors that are doing things because that's the way it's always been done. Yeah. There's research coming out that doesn't support it. Yeah. Yeah.
So for our listeners, many of them, I'm sure, are going, what in the world is thermography? Mm-hmm. I'm familiar with it, but so tell us, what is thermography?
Okay, thermography is thermal imaging. So it's basically like a heat map of your body. Mm-hmm. It sees the activity, the physiological, biological activity in your body that emanates heat or restricts heat.
Yeah. So completely non-invasive.
It's non-invasive. There's no and so
don't drink anything, don't have to take any shots or dyes or anything. Right. And I know that you go in a pretty cold room. I've had a thermography before.
The acclimation part of it is important. So the temperature has to be between 67 and 71.
Mm-hmm. And then it's pretty much just a camera that maps the heat in your body, or like you said, the lack thereof. Yes. And it can be indicative and show hot spots if I'm calling it right.
Right. Yeah. Yes. It sees the altered heat patterns, so that the neurochemical or physiological responses. And thermography has the unique ability to track disparities in temperature. So it's showing the activity. Whereas other modalities like mammograms, those are structural imaging. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they actually see a mass.
Yeah. Those are painful.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So thermography will show the inflammation, infection, injuries, because all those emit heat. Yes.
Yeah.
Whereas cooler areas would be because of nerve impingements or circulatory obstructions. Really neat.
We're fearfully and wonderfully made.
We certainly are.
Yes.
By an artist.
Yes.
Because, they're symmetrical. So when there's disparities in temperature, that shows something is wrong.
Yeah.
So if there's the cooler areas or heated areas, that shows something.
So you mentioned earlier when we were talking, getting ready for our time together, you mentioned most of the common use is for instead of a mammogram, so it's breast. So, but what other types of things can it show, or what other types of...
So like sports injuries, sometimes chiropractors will send, so if you're really ready to go back out on the court or the field. It is used with the racehorses.
Really?
$1 million racehorses use thermography, yes. And NASA has used it. But so it can show neuropathy. It can show displaced pain. So that's why chiropractors like to refer to, because people can...
Where's the pain coming from?
Yes.
Yeah. Might be showing up in a shoulder, but it could be somewhere else. That's interesting.
The bulk of it is usually used for breast health. And how that works is it sees the activity that's created around abnormal cells. It doesn't actually see a mass.
Okay.
It sees the activity. And I'm going to keep saying that it sees the activity because there's structural imaging, which are mammograms, and ultrasounds.
Right.
Now, with the ultrasound, you don't have the radiation. With a mammogram, there is radiation. So those are two structural tests.
Right.
This shows the biology and the physiology, the activity. So the activity around abnormal cells is increased vascularity to the point of what we call angiogenesis. And that's when abnormal cells, they are hungry for more blood.
Yeah.
So they actually grow capillaries. And this happens years before a picture or a structural image can show a mass.
So a thermography can pick it up or pick up activity, abnormal activity
years
before structural. Wow, that's interesting.
Yes. And so I will go back to my experience. The day I got the phone call that my biopsy was malignant, the girl on the phone said, "Oh, but the good news is it's been there at least 7 years, so it's slow growing." Oh, and that I couldn't shake. I thought, this doesn't make sense. But I get mammograms.
Yeah.
Because I thought that was being proactive with my health, that I was supposed to be doing that.
Right. But it was so small.
It was so small.
Mammogram wasn't picking it up.
Right.
Whereas a thermography would have
picked it up.
Oh,
have picked it up.
Interesting.
So it can pick it up when it's still microscopic because the
heat is coming there.
Yeah. And you can make lifestyle changes to offset it.
Yeah.
And so it is truly preventative.
Wow.
And people in the other camp, one of the ways they like to refute it is that, well, there's no proof of that because there's no data. If it's preventative, it never happened. So there's no data if it never happened.
Yeah.
So it's how do you measure?
Yeah.
How do you measure preventative?
Sure. Yeah.
But it is truly preventative.
Wow. That's amazing. Yeah.
But I look back, and this is the part of what I really want this to be educational. I think if I had known in my 20s, if I had known sooner, the things I would have done differently.
Yeah. So what would you suggest as, if someone sees activity on a thermogram, what have you learned?
Okay. What I've learned, your lymphatic flow is so important. We don't talk about that enough. Our heart pumps blood through the circulation. But even with that, your heart doesn't pump
everything.
Everything.
We have to be
our veins and capillaries have to be palatable for the blood to flow through. That's why hardening of the arteries is, such a problem. The lymphatic system doesn't have a pump. We have to manually pump it by moving. We have to keep moving and not restricting it. The underwire bras and push-up bras are very, very constrictive to that flow. Plastics, I don't use plastics anymore. Just glass. And when I was younger and I was teaching and just living in the rat race, everything was so quick. I can't tell you how many things I microwaved in plastic.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my goodness.
And those can stay in your tissue for a long time. So that's why I'm thinking if I just want to reach the younger group, things to do differently. Because the chronic diseases they're lifestyle diseases.
Most of them, yes.
Yeah, most of them.
And
Most of them are.
even medical professionals, a lot of them are saying that.
Mm-hmm.
So much of what we face is lifestyle.
And it's not a quick, easy fix. It's cumulative over time. So there's no such thing as age-related disease. It's just that over time it's caught up with you.
Yeah.
And so people when they're young, they tend to not think about it because
they don't have any symptoms.
Right.
Or they think they're normal like I do.
It's going to catch up with you one day. You've got to do these things.
Learn some things while you're young. Yeah. So this is a beautiful clinic. We'll take some pictures and do a tour in just a minute. But so you offer some other services. Thermography was what got you on this path. And now you've learned so many other things. So what are some of the other services and why did you choose the things that you chose to offer here?
Okay. We have red light or infrared light because really it's the infrared that is the healing. It's very good for your skin and it penetrates into the healing. So, and then we have the PEMF.
Yes.
That's Pulsated Electromagnetic Field. It mimics the grounding or earthing, if you're familiar with that.
We're electrical.
Yeah.
And that's what, it sounds weird. People think, you're
very weird.
We're
it sounds very
Yeah.
weird. And when I first heard about it, I thought, that's kind of weird.
I know, me too.
But then the more I looked into it and read it, I thought, this makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Because God spoke everything into existence, but Adam, he created from the earth and he breathed life into him.
Yes.
So we are made of the earth. And so when we ground our earth, it's very healing. So you can ground and get those benefits. The problem is we wear shoes everywhere. We're not outside very much anymore.
Right.
And we wear shoes everywhere we go.
And even we walk outside and it's a parking lot or a paved, like my driveway.
And so
concrete,
even doing sports, a lot of times it's turf.
Yeah.
And a lot of the yards are chemically treated.
Yeah.
So we just don't ground like we once did.
I think that's why I love the ocean so much. It's the sun, the salt air.
Yes.
And I tell
and
my husband doesn't understand it, but
when you're at the beach, you're barefoot.
My favorite thing is just to walk, and I can walk for miles just on the sand, in the warm, in the salt water, just ankle deep. Because he goes, "Why do you like the beach? You never go in the water." And I'm like, I don't know. I just like the sun, and it's just healing to me.
It is.
So So those pulse electromagnetic fields, those are low frequency, like the earth gives off. So the videos that I've seen about it, it really improves blood circulation.
The points on it also go to the same pressure points that acupuncture.
Right. Yeah.
So if anybody's a little wigged out about acupuncture with the needles, the PMF mat goes to those same points.
Yeah. That's fascinating. And so you got the red light, the PMF, and then
the whole body vibration.
Yeah.
And we have the power plate here.
Yeah.
What it does is it vibrates your muscles so that there's a pulling on them. And that's what builds the bone. Okay. So it builds muscle, it builds bone, it works on your circulatory system, your lymphatic system. It does it all.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's great for athletes and it's great for people who don't exercise.
Yeah.
People that don't get a lot of exercise, you can get on the power plate throughout the day to get all that going in your body.
Yeah. And you even shared a testimony that it works.
Yes. Yes, because several years ago, I had a bone density test and the doctor wanted to put me on medication and I wouldn't do it. I'm probably one of the few people that actually reads that white piece of paper that comes.
You and me both.
I was like, I'm not taking this. I'm not taking this.
Yeah. Or you actually listen to the commercials with the side effects. You're like,
I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
So when I went back in for my checkup the next year, she asked me about it. I said, I'm not taking that. Well, she just raked me over the coals and said, you're a small frame. You have got to take this. Your bones will not get any better unless you take this. And I just thought to myself, we'll see about that.
Okay, Lord, what can I do?
And my friend Debbie, I heard her talking about, well, she wasn't my friend at the time. We became friends. I heard her talking about the whole body vibration. So I got in touch with her and said, tell me more about this. I want to know about the bone density part of it. And so I got one. And the day that I went for my mammogram, she said, you haven't had a bone density in a while, so go ahead and do that while you're there. So I did that same day. And I had to call for my results. They didn't tell me anything.
Yeah.
And the girl on the phone, then she said, oh, that's strange. We usually don't see improvement with your bones.
So how long had you done the
whole body vibration? 5 years. I guess about 5 years at that time.
Oh, okay.
But, yeah.
Yeah. So you just hadn't had it checked, but you know that something changed in that time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah. So my bones did increase without medication.
Yeah. Wow. So you're all about educating people on alternatives.
Yes. So what we have here, the sticks you roll out across your muscles and for lymphatic flow and several different exercises you can do with that. The brushes for dry brushing, weighted hula hoops, just things to get you moving that are easy, that you can just pick up at home and do it for, a few minutes here, a few minutes there, easily done.
Now, I know from knowing you, your jumping off place is going to be change your diet, clean eating, because I know you, and that is a key.
Yes. So the things we have here are to help with your mitochondria. They build bone, build muscle, because you can't see what's going on with your bones.
Right.
But just know if you're focusing on building muscle, which is very important, you're not going to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger. You're not.
I don't.
So just concentrate on building your muscles. It's so good for you and so important. You're going to be building your bone and your circulation. We've got to be moving.
Yeah.
And that helps with your lymphatic flow.
Yeah.
So all those things.
Yeah.
And your digestion. I know you're big on your poop talk.
Yeah. We got
So it helps with that too. You got to keep, yes.
But just like you, I mean, we can eat really well. We can eat really clean and have a really good diet. We can eat real bread.
Yes.
But it doesn't make us completely immune from seeing some significant health issues. We live in a toxic world. I mean, it just is. We live in a fallen world where there are sin issues, like you mentioned. So these are great modalities and different ways of improving things a little, going another step when we do have some issues or Yeah.
And so part of the education too is we tend to pile on more and more. Mine is more of, you might need to eliminate some things. You may eliminate some
There's
things.
so much. I mean, you got to love and hate the internet.
Yes.
And, I mean, I hear people, oh, what do you think about this? And I'm like, I know you've heard that on the internet. And the next thing you know, you're doing this, you're doing this, you're doing this.
Yes. And like with supplements. It's like, oh my goodness, you could spend so much money on supplements.
Yeah.
And the same thing with your foods. I tell people all the time, your food's only as healthy as the ingredients in them.
Yeah.
So you've got to have the unrefined flour, the unrefined salt.
And good raw honey, real olive oil. Yeah. All those things.
And know where it comes from.
Yes.
Because you know where your
olive oil
your products come from.
Yes. Yeah.
So do you really know what's in that supplement?
Yeah.
And where it comes from?
Yeah.
And so many of the supplements are synthetic.
Yeah.
And a lot of what we take, our body is supposed to produce.
Yes.
So give your body what it needs.
Yes.
And it will do what it needs.
Yeah.
Oh, and that's another thing that I love about the PEMF mat and grounding or earthing. It recalibrates the systems of your body. So
really,
that's why you sleep so good when you're it's your circadian rhythm.
Yeah.
And the light does that too.
Yeah.
So the red light, it mimics the sunshine. And that is our greatest source of vitamin D.
Yeah.
And very healing. And the PEMF, mimics the grounding, and the whole body vibration is for exercise.
I'm so thankful for all you do to help others. I know that's your heart. I've known you for a while and you're passionate about what you do. And I just think it's so wonderful. This is cutting edge healing modalities here. I mean, this is really, I know some of our listeners are probably going, oh, wow, they have gone off the deep end. But before we close up, so what's the best way? You're in Jasper, Georgia.
Yes.
So I realize, a lot of our listeners are not in the area, but if you're local, what's the best way for them to find you and get in touch with you? You have a website?
Yes, we have a website, and there's much more information and detail about
what you do and what the service, what the different aspects are.
Yes, because I could go on quite a while about thermography and what it does and doesn't do, and the other imaging.
Yeah.
The website is ngathermography.com. Yeah. And then we have a Facebook page too. And then I'm going to start having classes here, and I actually got that idea from you because you do your classes and the getting started classes. So every month, what we have here, so you can actually see the equipment and try it. So they're going to be interactive classes.
Oh, wow.
And it's going to cover a lot about the nutrition and things that actually block the nutrition. If we get our gut healthy, then our body can do so much.
I mean, that's the key. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that is so great. So North Georgia, NGA Thermography and Wellness in Jasper, Georgia. This is Teresa Clayton. If you Google the whole word North Georgia Thermography, it's going to come up because that's what I did last night. So you've just always been such a good friend and an encouragement to me. And just before we close, is there a final word of encouragement you'd like to share with our listeners? Just I call it the icing on the cake.
Well,
okay,
I told you about the day I went in for my mammogram and just how cold it was. I understand now because the technicians can't really say anything. So
right.
I am a thermographer, which is like a photographer. Mm-hmm. I am a technician. I can't give medical advice.
Right.
And I can't tell you what I see.
Yeah.
If you beg me, what do you see? I do not have the authority or the credentials to say that. That has to come from a doctor.
Okay.
So the images are sent to the doctor who is trained in thermography. Okay. So that is another reason why some conventional doctors don't want to talk about it because they're not trained in that area.
Okay. Yeah.
And so it's a board certified thermographer. So when you have the ologist on the end, that's the doctor. Okay. So I am a thermographer, like a photographer.
Just like going for an ultrasound, they can't tell you what they're seeing.
So then the report comes back and I can go over the report with you. And I can explain that with you and the recommendations.
Written out. Yes. Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Teresa, for being my guest today. Anything else you want to share?
Yes. My goal really is to educate, for people not to have a fear about it, to educate on how to be healthy, not just for longevity, but the quality of life. Yeah. We're supposed to have a quality of life as long as we live.
Yes, we are. And that's one thing that the Lord's really put on my heart to share is being healthy is not just about not being sick. Right. It is being able to do all that God has called you to do, to have the energy, to have the ability to walk and
so we may retire from a vocation, but we're supposed to be doing the kingdom work as long as we're living.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. I say to the Lord all the time, I want to be like Moses. I want to live to 120 and I want to be able to walk up the mountain and you just take me home. That's what I want to do.
They had so much vigor and vitality back then. And
they walked, they moved.
Our elderly are disabled.
Yeah. And it's really sad.
It is.
It is really sad. So what a wonderful time. I can't wait to get a tour of your clinic. We'll try to take some pictures and post them on our site or somewhere. Yeah, we'll share them with everybody.
I would like to share something a little personal about why I'm doing this, because I am in my retirement age. Yeah. It's a little bit daunting and scary to start not only a new career, but open a business too. Yeah. But I feel like it is so needed. Mm-hmm. And I want to be very compassionate and tender for people who have lost their life to cancer. But I think I was spared for a reason. Yes. And my reason is I want to glorify God all the days of my life and to teach the next generation.
Yes. And I believe the same thing for me too. I know that I went through similar, not breast cancer, but colon cancer. And I know that God spared me for a reason. And I'm here today to encourage others.
So, like I said, I did not tell my children right away. I didn't want to upset them. Even though they're grown, I'm mama. I dry tears. I don't cause them. Yeah. So I waited till I had the results from the surgery, and the surgery was good. So when my daughter came over, told her I needed to see her and don't bring the kids. And she immediately was like, what's going on? And because I had drainage bags. And I didn't want them to see me bandaged, so I told her. And of course, she cried, and I felt bad that she cried. So that night when I went to bed, I just thought I need to send her a message because I did feel bad that she cried when she saw me. So I said, hey, I want you to know this. Everyone will go through some type of trial and hardship. We live in a fallen world, but God binds up the brokenhearted. He reaches us in affliction, and when we cry out to Him, He will carry us through. I woke up during the night, the day before my surgery. I was peaceful, just awake. I thanked God for this summer. As strange as it sounds, I know you'll understand. It was a hard summer, but it was a good summer. The more I sunk into God through prayer and scripture, the higher He lifted me. As I prayed and thanked Him that the wait was almost over, but I never wanted the realness of His presence to dissipate. I thought about all the stories where He shows the opposite of instant gratification. Ruth gleaned the fields many times before she became Boaz's wife. Jericho was marched around 7 times. Esther requested dinner 3 times before the king before God prompted her to tell what was going on. More than anything, God desires our heart. Trust is in the wait. The wait cultivates a heart of trust. I am thankful that God sought me out to give me an invitation to just sit at His feet this summer. Had the summer gone as I thought it would have been full of moving and going places. We had some mini vacations planned, and all of that would have been good and fun, but it wouldn't have given God what He desires most, a daughter who wholeheartedly pursued Him.
Wow. I think that's a perfect note to end it on. And what I see is your compassion and your heart to help people and to be a friend. And you've been a good friend to me. You've always encouraged me. And I just thank you for being a pioneer, if you will, for health. And
well, thank you. I can certainly be a friend to anyone who's going through this.
Yes, absolutely. So for everyone listening today, thank you for listening. If you are in the area, reach out to Teresa at North Georgia Thermography and Wellness in Jasper, Georgia. Until next time, this is Sue Becker from Bread Beckers with Sue's Healthy Minutes.
Sue's Healthy Minutes podcast has been a presentation by the Bread Beckers Incorporated located in Woodstock, Georgia. For more information, store hours, and learning opportunities, visit breadbeckers.com and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Make sure to subscribe to this podcast and never miss an episode. Share this with 2 friends who would benefit from this information, and be sure to join us again next week for more of Sue's Healthy Minutes.